Welcome to another episode of It's Paid Live. I'm joined by Ken and I'm Matt. Who are we talking to today, Ken?
Hey, Matt. Well, we're
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
I'm good.
Yeah. What an interesting week. Hey, today we have a wonderful guest with us, a gentleman by the name of Scott Reese from Cornerstone Path. Scott's a principal over at Cornerstone Path, is a business consultant, consults many large organizations. Met Scott actually in Dallas, Texas, I believe, a little over a year ago, talking about customer experience, interactive customer experience. Hey, Scott, welcome to It's Paid Live.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Ken.
Yeah, so Scott was telling us that he's actually up in Michigan right now. You're originally from, what part of the country are you from, Scott?
I was actually born overseas, kind of grew up all over, between the South and the Northwest.
South and Northwest, yeah. Now he's up in the upper Midwest. And Scott is a retired Marine Corps officer, correct, Scott?
Well, not retired, but I am a former Marine Corps officer, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, well, hoorah.
Yep.
Anyway, Scott, hey, thanks for joining us. Tell us, what led you to start Cornerstone Path?
It's a great question. I just wanted to work on a lot more variety of accounts and projects than being dedicated to, sort of one product offer into, a set of verticals. So that was one reason. Another reason is the world's really changing. I really saw this emergence of distributed device computing, or IoT as it's called, and the connection of those devices and the security of those devices. And, it's still a pretty early stage idea, but the world's really dramatically changing, and the underlying technology infrastructure to support that change is also having to change. So I really wanted to be nimble to work on a lot of different projects with a lot of different companies and owners. And in the last couple of years, in fact, I just had my 2-year business anniversary on Tuesday this week, so just 2 days ago.
Well, congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So, does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I totally understand. I remember when we were actually in Dallas, Texas at the ICX conference, we were actually having exchanges, discussions about customer engagement, customer experience, and customer loyalty. Could you maybe share with us some conversations you've had with companies and their roles on how they're actually dealing with customer experience and customer engagement? Yeah,
the thing about the how is I get asked that all the time, like, how do we make customer experience better? And what I've found with my clients, watching them work and the work I've done, is the how. If you do the why first, the how is really easy. If you don't start with the why, the how is pretty hard and high risk investment.
Yeah.
But if you figure out really, what is the critical fundamental human need that your business is meeting, if you understand that first, then figuring out what's the customer's essential interaction with you that really makes the difference to them coming back to you or switching to someone else. That lays out the foundation or the groundwork for what should that experience look like. And from there, it's easier to figure out the tactical pieces of it, but really starting with why.
Gotcha.
Powerful question.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you mentioned that. I actually read a book from a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek that talks about start with why. And I think that you're kind of alluding to that, weren't you? Yeah. The why, the how, and the what. And really focuses on the concept of the diffusion of innovation. And I can't remember the name of the professor that talked about the innovative class, the early adoptive class, and figuring out how to cross that chasm, correct?
That's correct.
Into the early majority class. Yeah. So, we're just curious. What are some of the common mistakes companies make with customer experience and customer engagement?
The number one mistake is, the same thing that I do as a parent sometimes when I tell my almost 20-year-old, when I was 20, the first thing she does is roll her eyes because my perspective doesn't match her perspective. So that first thing that I would just quickly say is, assuming because you like it or you developed it or you thought it through, that your customer will feel the same way about it that you do. So, sort of the bias of your own opinion. If you want, to really find out what matters to customers, ask them. They generally will tell you whether your customers you only have a few very large customers or whether you have many customers that buy smaller transactions. It's out there. The information's out there, and people will tell you if you ask them.
Gotcha. You said you've got a daughter that's 20 years old?
That's correct.
Scott, I mean, it looks like you had kids when you were 10. don't you agree, Matt? He's a young looking man, so you actually held up very well. The Marine Corps must have done well for you then.
It still look good on the outside. It's just about being on the inside.
Exactly. One thing I remember, Matt, we were talking about, one of the questions they posed is when we were talking about customer experience, and I'm going to get into a little bit about customer loyalty. We asked some of the best loyalty programs out there, and this is actually how Scott and I kind of met was, name some companies that offer fantastic loyalty programs. And Scott, I remember you mentioning, hey, Southwest and their, Could you share a little bit about your experience with that?
Oh yeah, I mean Southwest Airlines. It's fun to be on, and the companion pass, right? Mm-hmm. One person can fly free with you forever for that year that you've earned it. Anywhere you go, they fly free. Mm-hmm. That's just a powerful incentive because it ties in my personal life into my professional buying decisions. Mm-hmm. Right? Southwest, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but they attached the idea of I can take my wife or my daughter or my son and set them for the year to go on the trips with dad. Mm-hmm. And in reality, we haven't taken that many trips together using that pass. So I'm not even sure how much that benefit has actually cost Southwest for me as a customer, but just the emotional connection to the benefit. It's like I always want to find a way to fly Southwest. It's an intangible thing. It's not like it's the cheapest price every time.
Yeah, exactly. The intangible thing, I think, and it's developing that customer loyalty. And and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It drives it's an emotional driver, is what it is, isn't it?
That's right. It is an emotional driver, and there's habit, right? And if you can get people to do things habitually, it doesn't cause pressure or stress. It doesn't cause stress in the brain. And brain science has figured it out. Making decisions actually requires, brain energy through the day. So if you can do something automatically, go to the same website to make the same purchase, versus having to go research something and figure it out, it's always less energy and less stress to just repeat your decision. So there's habit, but then there's also emotional affinity, where like Southwest or Chick-fil-A, those are two brands that have high emotional affinity with their client base.
No, it's interesting. How can and I know one of the questions I want to ask, tips and suggestions on companies, what they can do to improve customer loyalty. And I kind of like to start with that, and then maybe piggyback onto a question right behind that. So, but any tips and suggestions that you can offer to our listeners on ways to improve customer loyalty?
Yeah, definitely. Understand your why and understand your customer's why. Like, why are they buying the thing that you're selling? And then go a little deeper than just the surface level answer to that. As you start to understand the psychology of your buyer, of your customer, it's just the roadmap for how to service that customer in a more appealing way to them that makes the habit easier. Less steps to the transaction, more automation to the transaction, but then also makes an emotional connection between them and the actual interaction with your brand. That it ties into their personal life in somehow or some way. And the degrees of complexity and difficulty of actually doing that vary, drastically from client to client. But I tell clients, like, every time we write a scope of work to do an engagement, there's a lot of concern about the right scope of work up front. And I just say, write it any way you want to, because 30 days in, we're going to rewrite it.
Yeah.
You don't actually know what it's going to be until you get there. But the sooner you get there, the sooner you're doing the productive work, or the sooner you start investigating, why your customers are really buying from you and not from somebody else, and what moments through their journey to work with you or buy from you, what moments matter the most to them through that journey.
So it sounds to me like you're saying that companies can't assume too much about their why their customers are there or why new customers might show up.
That's right.
So
hit the nail on the head, Matt.
Well, like when you're doing, so what you said I think is important, because you have to do research into your customer, but there's a problem I've seen where you end up doing research on demographics rather than individuals. Is that what you're saying, that you have to kind of focus fire rather than toss out a wide net and hope you catch fish, but rather get the right bait, or it's not really bait. That's like a terrible analogy for a customer, but you know what I mean. Like
a targeted message.
Having the right,
right
what
message.
They want,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
so that you can provide a service or a product that they're looking for. So
No, I mean, you're right. The term I've heard for this is psychographic versus demographic. And I've internally with my team, I've called that, the buying avatar, or, the profiles of clients. I mean,
Right.
Generally I'm working with an owner of a business, or, a division leader of a division. And the mindset of those two roles are very different.
yeah,
Right? Being a business owner versus leading a division within a bigger company that's owned by, shareholders. It's a different role, it's a different chair, but it's an empathy. This is an empathy question.
comes up a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you empathize with the position bearing emotions and attitude of the person that's having on the other side of the transaction with you, that you're serving, right? Or are you thinking of that service from your point of view in the service transaction? And it's easy to make mistakes with another person in an environment where you don't understand them.
Sure.
Most modern negotiation courses would start with some level of understanding the position, desire, interest, and goal of the person on the other side, of the negotiation. And if you're going to serve someone well, right? Like, my mom always said, don't go try to help somebody with something that they don't like.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Yep, absolutely. Last week we actually had a gentleman by name Bob Harris on talking about attrition, and he's basically you're reiterating what he was saying.
Yeah.
Is that it's not about price, it's about value, and it's about what can you do to engage your customers so that your customers will end up becoming an advocate for you.
Yep.
And that's where it really kind of boils down to.
I was going to ask a question real quick.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned empathy, and you mentioned that you have to understand, right? Well, that your customer the why. So what do you think is the best approach for finding out the why? Like, what can companies do to reevaluate their approach to understanding the why? Like, and really achieving that, right? Not just like assuming, because that was the problem. So how do we get to the actual why? What do you suggest?
Well, there's lots of ways to do ethnography, which is the study of people and places and through time. The work that I've typically done, I've just asked the people I work with, what do you like about this work? What don't you like about this work? Or why do you like coming here? Or I was working on a project around, a large quick serve restaurant brand. And I went to one of their restaurants one morning and standing in line, and one of the gentlemen in line was smiling, looking around. I made eye contact with him, and I just walked up and said, "Hey, how do you like these new order kiosks inside the restaurant?" And he started just telling me, and I said, "Why do you come here instead of the place across the street?" Or I just started asking him.
Sounds like it's a heavy investment in actually getting to know people rather than some kind of systematic step program or something. So.
I think it's like going to the gym, right? If you think you're going to get in shape in 30 days, there's a lot of courses you could buy that probably won't get you there. But if you start a plan of just consistently working out 3 times a week for 30 minutes, your health will improve. You'll look back 6 months later and you'll have made so much progress.
So what you're saying is the more time you get to know your clients or customers, you end up with that why becomes more clear over time?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the more you invest your time in understanding and knowing your customer, that's where.
So just keep asking that question. Why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to. I know that we talked about Southwest, that their loyalty program, and I don't know if that can be replicated in other industries. So, or could it, Scott? I mean, what would your advice be to companies looking at wanting to develop a loyalty program for their customers? I know each one's going to be different, but are there any specific tips that they can employ?
Well,
I mean, other than the why, yeah.
Yeah, on the last question, the thing that just really strikes me is there are moments where customers are interacting with your company.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter whether you rent music instruments or fix cars.
Mm-hmm.
There are moments where you're interacting with the customer and you're getting some level of feedback. They like it or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So one is recognizing those moments, and two is capturing those moments. Maybe someone at your counter or in the shop is in that moment, but are you capturing that internal and retaining that inside your company?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that employee having that conversation? So a loyalty program has to matter to the customer at those points of interaction with your company where it makes a difference for them.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you're the principal over at Cornerstone Path. Could you share with us, what is Cornerstone Path, and what is it that you do for Cornerstone Path?
I manage the firm, and I'm also a principal consultant for the firm. And we're a consulting firm that helps business owners or business leaders to really tackle growth problems, whether they're trying to launch a new technology into a new marketplace, or if they're trying to improve, their team flow, or grow their revenue, or grow individual leaders in their organization. Generally, we work through owners or division leaders, like division presidents or CEOs. What are the topics they're trying to tackle? They just don't have. If they just had one more person on staff that they could hand things to, because they just can't get to that task themselves, but they knew it would produce ROI for them.
Mm-hmm.
if they could throw some competent resources. So we end up being like staff augmentation initially,
Mm-hmm.
To take ideas, develop them, and then help them start to execute both outside and inside their organization.
Yeah. Is your organization going to be attending any events or any speaking engagements or webinars or anything that's
Do you have
upcoming?
anything you want to promote?
Yeah.
That you got coming up?
We do tend to go to events in support of clients, event to event, either in retail or the QSR or sort of IoT technology space.
Mm-hmm.
So events like National Retail Federation or ICX, Next Point, these are generally the types of events we go to. And my event schedule changes pretty dramatically, and I don't have any scheduled speaking at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a book that's been finished. It's in the sort of editing revision process now. And
there you go. Plug your book. Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it cut out. Go ahead. Do one more time.
I was going to say this is the first time I've really told anyone but my inner circle. But yeah, we do have a book coming out called The Cornerstone Path, and it's executing technology innovation, a methodology for getting technology innovation done and delivered to your physical location.
Okay.
Where can people go get that?
Yeah, right now it's in editing, so we'll probably be launching that closer to, I'm guessing, the end of the year. So it's with the editor now in a second draft,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it'll probably see publication at the end of the year.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm guessing it's going to be posted on your website, correct,
Yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, we'll post it on the website. It'll probably
All right.
go up on Amazon.
And that's cornerstonepath.com?
Yep, yes, sir.
Okay, there'll be a link in the description,
Mm-hmm.
And then people can reach you there for more information?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So to our viewers, we'll make sure that Scott's information is going to be made available, so you can contact Scott directly and certainly be able to access that book. So, well, wonderful, Matt. Scott, I appreciate you coming and joining us and sharing some of your knowledge with us. Matt, anything that you'd like to ask?
No, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Scott.
And guys, congrats on your recent award. You guys are just doing really, really great over there at ItsPayd. So.
Oh, thank you
Keep it
so
up.
much. Oh, thank you so much, Scott. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
right.
my pleasure.
All right. Take care.
All right,
Safe travels.
Scott,
All right, guys. See you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Scott.
Wonderful. A great guest that joined us today. Our next live stream will be in a couple of weeks. I believe we're probably going to have a gentleman by the name of Ron Bowden from United Central Control talking about their program to improve business and improve sales. Matt?
Well, it sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you guys all next time.
Thank you so much, everybody.